Hello everyone and welcome to Werven's World and welcome to my 10 advanced tips for new players of Endless Space 2. So since release I've been playing much more of this game and I found out about a couple of things that I thought I would share with you in order to hopefully help you with your gameplay. So let's get started. Tip number 1, you actually start the game off with more battle tactics cards than you think you might have. So if you go to your fleet management tab, then you can click on Battle Tactics and you can open it, and these are the 3 that the game chose for us, the ones that we can choose during a battle. However, we already have access to 6. So depending on what you want to do, for example, let's say I want to go for a crit heavy fleet, then I could choose Get Lucky, and if I don't need Turtle, for example, I can just drag it there and use this instead. And you can already do that from turn 1 in the game. At the first turn of the game, make sure to check whether it would be useful to instruct the law toys for boys. In general it will be useful, but the Vodjani and the Cravers will not benefit for this. The reason for that is, let's look at our planet. At the moment we are content, and that basically just doesn't give us anything specifically. If we however instruct this law, which doesn't cost us anything except a minus 10% on science, then suddenly our system or planet is happy. Happiness gives us plus 10% food and plus 10% influence, but also there's an empire-wide happiness, and that gives us plus 15% dust and plus 15% science. So even if we took a 10% science hit, we get a plus 15% extra, and then we get some dust and food and influence. So in that sense it's very much worth it. However, with the Vodjani and the Cravers it's not worth it, because for the Vodjani they start on a planet that gives them a happiness malus, so you don't actually get to happy when you instruct this law. And with the Cravers they actually have enslaved population, which brings the happiness down. The Riftborn also start on a planet that gives them a bit less happiness, but then they start as a republic, which gives their laws more power, so they actually get a bigger happiness bonus from this, which then makes them happy again. So at the beginning of the game, make sure to look at this, because it doesn't cost you anything, but it will just give you more production. If your current leading political party is ecologist, you will have this hardship ready, which allows you to colonize any telluric planet that you don't have the technology for. For example, here I have colonized this lava planet, even though I don't have the technology for actually colonizing lava planets, which normally is here. So if I now get rid of ecologist at an election, and now let's just vote for something else, so now we are actually scientists, then I don't lose these planets. So don't be afraid of changing your political parties depending on what you need, as long as you've kind of colonized already the planets that you want to colonize, because you cannot exploit this. For example, here I already queued the colonization of all the others, but now that I lost this law, these colonizations will not happen anymore because I changed to scientist. Tip number 4, it's good to know that luxury and strategic resources don't only give you those resources in order to build stuff with or to make your system developments. What they also do is give bonuses to the planets that they're on. So for example, if we go here, we can see that this planet here has Jadenix as well as Eden Incense, and those things actually give me something. So here they give me happiness and plus 2 production per population, and this one gives me plus 10 happiness and plus 2 science per population. This is summarized here. When you hover over the planets, you can see deposits, plus 20 happiness, and so on. Here we have titanium, which gives me plus 1 production, and Jadenix, which also gives me extra production and happiness, which again is summarized right here. So these resources are not only good to actually build stuff with or get these system developments, but also colonizing them will make your life easier in regards to output and happiness. Tip number 5, it might be a good idea to wait with exploring atmospheric curiosities until turn 16. The reason for this is that you start a quest that is to find the academy, and it tells you to backtrack the path of heroes by exploring 5 atmospheric curiosities. So if you have them close by and you haven't explored them yet, you can do it now, and if you end up being first, so you explored most of these 5, then you get a bonus of 100 dust, 50 influence and 30 titanium. So this is quite sizable. You can either sell this titanium on the marketplace or use it to build wonders and stuff like that. So you can see whether something is an atmospheric curiosity by hovering over it, and then on the left you can see that it's atmospheric. So if you leave a couple of these until turn 16, then you can quickly explore them and hopefully turn in first for that quest. However, if you get the message anywhere before this turn that the academy has already been found, then this quest will not happen, so then you can just explore them to your heart's content. Tip number 6. It's good to know that the research tree also contains some passive upgrades that you get automatically once you get to the right ring. So as you can see here, for example, already at the start, it's these things in the middle. So we start off with drone networks, and we start off with cerebral reality and with the ability to do peace treaties. But the more we research, as you can see here, suddenly at ring 3, we would unlock +1 law slots on all of these political systems. And then here, in ring 5, we would get even more law slots, and we would get this obelisk of all space-time, which is a wonder for the wonder victory. Now here, you actually get access to some modules. One of them gets more movement speed. You also unlock more curiosities, get more modules, and so on. Here on this side, you actually access the upgrades for your system. So here you can upgrade it to level 2, here to level 3, and here to level 4. And then here you actually get increases in manpower, or manpower capacity, sorry. And then you have these here, which gives the ships that you build already some experience. And experience level is quite nice because it increases the stats of your ship. So by increasing the level of this, your ships will already start stronger than they normally would. Tip number 7, be aware that galaxy size, which you can set when you start up a game, and you can also see it here which one you chose. So here's galaxy size tiny. This affects how many systems you can colonize. So as you can see here, now I have only 2 systems that I can colonize before I will get a approval penalty. This will of course increase with these technologies, but they are balanced for the galaxy size as well. As you can see here, now it's +1 system, while on a normal size you would get +2, and the United Empire on a normal size would get +4, but here they would get +2. So these technologies are balanced for that as well. So make sure to check what your limit is before you really start colonizing everything, because otherwise it's going to bite you in the ass. Tip number 8. After a battle, it might be good to kind of look at this for a bit longer in order to get to grips with the obscure battle system of Endless Space 2. So first of all, you can kind of see what type of defenses the enemies had. So as you can see here, they didn't have any projectile defense and they purely used lasers, and you can see that on those bars on the left. But there is a little button here called Advanced, and that can be quite useful. So if you click on this, you can see how the battle went. So a battle consists of 3 phases, and if there would just be 2 opposing fleets, then it would go from long range to medium range to short range. However, I have more flotillas. So this one here I put at medium range, and it actually starts the battle at medium range. So now they would be in their optimal range all the battle, because they can keep at medium range, because these ones are busy with this flotilla here. Interestingly, this one here was on short range because I had a couple of ships that I optimized to be at short range, but they never actually managed to get close to the enemy. I kind of expected that these would then also sneak up on the enemy just like this flotilla is doing, but unfortunately that didn't happen, and I'm not entirely sure why, but that's good information to know, because now next time I will not make the same mistake again. I will probably just put them together with the medium ships, for example. So, or give them different weapons so that they're not optimal at short range only, but they can also do something at medium or long range. Then there is more information to be learned here. For example, we can see what type of damage we did. We can see that we did some kinetic weapon damage, and we also did some laser weapon damage. This gives us some information about how critical hit works, and I haven't been able to find that critical hit information anywhere else in the game. It says critical damage ignores the defense absorption. Use weapons with critical damage against fleets with lots of defense modules. So that's good to know. Then we also see here damage absorbed by their shields, and we can see that this absorption was affected by their power to shields module, which makes sense. Then there is the amount of missed shots. And missed shots either happens because they have defensive module that gives them evasion, or because your ships are acting at distances that are not optimal. For example here, this one at long range has 80% effectivity at long range, and they were at long range for one phase. So here they would miss more shots than they would normally do, and that will result in this missed shot statistic. So looking at this overview will definitely give you a bit more information on how the battle system works, and that's always good to know. Tip number 9, be aware of how your politics might affect your people's happiness, because you might run into big troubles if you don't pay attention to it. So how it works is there are leading political parties, and the amount of political parties that you can have depends on your politics. So for example, you have a democracy which actually can have 3 political parties, dictatorship can have only 1, federation can have 2, and republic can also have 2. Now it's good to have many because then your people feel represented. So if you have militarist, industrialist and pacifist on your planets, they will all be happy because they feel like they're being represented. If you have a dictatorship and you only have militarist, all the other people will be unhappy. So how does it work? So at the moment we have militarist, industrialist and pacifist. As you can see here, we have industrialist, militarist and pacifist here as well, and they are happily being represented. But we also have some ecologists and religious people, and they are less happy. So let's go back to that planet. I accidentally clicked it away. Here we go. So how it works is that these all are represented. So that's 5 plus 4 plus 1 is 10 people. So the happiness bonus for being represented is 2. So if we click here on happy or hover over it, you can see plus 20 from leading political parties in system. However, these 3 here are not being represented, and the minus bonus for not being represented is minus 3. So 2 plus 1 is 3, times 3 is 9. So as you can see here, minus 9 from not leading political parties in system. So if you suddenly go to war and you make a lot of ships and they all influence your militarist influence, and you suddenly get a lot of militarist representatives, but you might be in an ecologist dictatorship, then suddenly you will get a big happiness hit because all these people that are militarist will not be represented, and each of them will give you a minus 3. Tip number 10. When you want to colonize a new system and build an outpost there, have a look for this planet that gives you the most amount of food, and you can kind of see that by hovering over it. So this one would give me 3, this one gives me 0, this one gives me 1, and this one gives me 4. So colonizing the one that gives you the most is a good idea, because for colonizing you actually need food. This is different from colonizing a new planet when you already have one there, because colonizing then takes production. However, if you use a colony ship, then you will be using food. And according to my own calculations, you need 300 food in total to colonize. So for example, now we are doing 9 food, and then 34 turns will be 306 food. So that will be enough in order to colonize this outpost. If, however, I would colonize this one, for example, the resulting food is way less, and I would only get 5 food output, and then I would need 60 turns in order to colonize this. So going for the one that gives you the most food will allow you to colonize it earlier. Also, I think in general it might be worth it if you have the money to go for this, merchants and money. It will increase the food output of the system itself, because that will halve the amount of turns that you need. And that means that the colony that is sending me food every turn will have to do that for less turns, so I will put less of a strain on the system that I already have. So these were my 10 advanced tips for new players of Endless Space 2. So if you have any questions or comments, or maybe other tips to share, please leave them in the comments, and I hope you found it useful, and see you next time.